How you doing?
Is my video on or not?
Your video is not on. You're a little quiet too. Do you think you could boost the volume on your end?
Oh yeah, sure. Hold on. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Good lord, audio is such a bitch.
Yeah, I had to do some crazy shit to get my scuffed ass setup working, so I sympathize. Um, yeah. Anyway, do you want to take video, or would you rather just stay voice?
Uh, I guess we'll say voice because my camera's being a complete piece of shit right now.
That's cool. All right, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Aside from the universe kind of collapsing and the economy tanking.
Yeah, but there's shared misery is misery halved, right? At least we're all going through that.
Yeah, that's kind of a good silver lining, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to get right into it. So first of all, I know everyone already knows this, but out of decorum, this is Chris Raygun, known YouTuber, large YouTuber, as a matter of fact. I imagine you're all already familiar. Doing well apart from the imminent collapse of the planet.
Yeah, we're doing fine over here. It's sweltering in Los Angeles right now, and it's hard to come by food.
Yeah.
But aside from that, things are as fine as they can be.
Nice, it's all relative. Yeah, and I am I'm very happy to be speaking with you. I'm actually surprised to be speaking to you. So it's not the first time that I've talked with like larger. Would you describe yourself as a member of the skeptic community, or do you not prefer that label?
I mean, I've always kind of hated it, but I understand the purpose that it serves as far as its use of grouping together people who make similar content. So I'm fine with I'm fine with the label as far as that goes.
Okay, got yeah, I got you. Like reluctantly, like okay, this is I suppose where people have thrown the net. Yeah.
Yeah, for the sake of linguistic simplicity.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Just curious. How did you become, how were you made aware of me? I'm just curious. I know that I have a somewhat contentious reputation outside of my relatively small community. So I'm interested, like what actually, in what way did you become aware of me?
Well, I've started streaming kind of regularly this last year, and people would often come into the chat and they'd be like, "Oh, do you know who Vosh is? And have you seen this debate or this video?" And I was like, "Oh no, I haven't seen it, but I'll check it out." And I watched I watched your talk with Sargon, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty good."
The second one I hope. We had two talks. Like the first one was a fucking nightmare, dude. I was pulling my teeth out by the end of that one.
I can't remember. I know I watched both of them. Was the first one with that moderator dude?
Yeah, Adam Friend did. Yeah.
That was a bit rough.
Yeah, it was a little rough, but that's I learned from it. I learned my inner chakras. I'm controlling them now. I'm in lockstep. All 9 of them, or however many there are. Okay, I'm very calm now when talking to ludicrously unintelligent Britbongers, which is normally a weak spot for me.
It was good. It was wild. Like I was genuinely impressed because I've always wished that I could be good at debating. I never do debates because I just know that that's just not my skill set at all, and I'm always jealous whenever I see something like you're really good at just sticking to the points.
It's interesting
to see. Yeah, but still, just seeing people flounder is very fun.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm actually crap at amicable conversations, so you might actually have the high ground on this one. Wait, fuck, I forgot to ask. Are you streaming right now?
No, I'm not streaming.
Okay. I am permanently banned from Twitch. It is forbidden that people stream while my content is in any way playing on their stream. It's super fucking obnoxious.
How'd you get banned from Twitch? What?
I started streaming on Twitch, and I was reading this article from a Zionist fascist who was talking about how Palestinian people's like individual rights were of no concern to like the true Israeli blood or whatever. I got real mad. I said some real heated stuff about Israel. Okay, I guess they interpreted it as like an anti-Semitic thing.
All right.
It was a year and a half ago. I've tried appealing since then, but it was a little bit silly. But their TOS is very, very strict. Like even playing a video of mine has gotten a few people banned for a week. It's really weird.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
Twitch is kind of horrendous with TOS. Like I feel like I remember a while ago. I don't know if this is the case now. or even if it was the case back then, I just heard it and just kind of assumed that it was true,
Mhm.
that you could get banned even just as a guy not wearing a shirt.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
was like, oh,
explicitly, yeah.
weird. Yeah, it's insane.
Which sucks because there was this small Hearthstone streamer I used to love called Applejacks, who was like this former Marine, and he was yoked. Dude was like a bodybuilder, and every time he'd win a game, he'd like flex or something. And I'm attracted to men, so I was very into it. But then they
Right.
now the guys got to wear shirts too, so it like, his
It's
poor
a real
business
shame.
model, he just has to wear tight
Yeah.
shirts now. Anyway, so all right.
Yeah.
We've got so much to talk about. I am
Yeah.
so curious about so many things. I guess my main points of curiosity here are where you are now politically. I assume you came here knowing we'd be talking about politics.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, where you are now politically, where you were politically, and how you think that transition has kind of come about, like how you've moved from A to B. Because one thing that I've noticed, and it's particular to your community, I think, if we're going to use the skeptic label, because I had this conversation with Shu too. I think there's this pattern of people who are very progressive, much more so than the average American. Shu on had, even back in 2016, I think, like just based on the actual policy prescription she had, was more progressive than the average American, and easily the same for you. You supported Bernie back in 2016, right?
Yeah, I was very, 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 very vocally supportive.
Yeah, yeah.
Bernie. To the point where I was really, really furious.
Hey,
When
me too.
he
I keep
lost.
that anger in my heart every day, baby. It's right here. It's
Yeah.
never going away.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
Yeah, but what's interesting to me is that in spite of those being the descriptive positions that you hold, there seems to be like this massive political ambiguity that's associated with that community. It's very difficult, I think, to tell, or maybe there's some like underlying hypocrisies, like you believe this thing but you say another thing. So I guess with that being said, and I want to lay all through it as long as you're okay with it. What do you believe today? Like, where do you stand politically? Who do you support? What are your like goals if you follow up on it very much?
Right. Well, I personally, I feel like healthcare is the biggest thing for me. It was a big reason why I supported Bernie back then and why I supported him now, or at least as long as I could have supported him now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like social democrat is probably like the most accurate. Like I know back in the day I used to go like I'm a classical liberal because that just means like I'm not like the other girls. That's like the kind of liberal that is.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It's like, yeah, we could have fun joking about people, but also, hey, let's vote left. So like I feel like over the years I feel like I've always been a social democrat, or at least like very, very heavily in that camp. I don't really think I had a name for it until the last like year or two though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, because Bernie's always called himself a democratic socialist, which I think is a misnomer if you're referring specifically to his policies. Maybe internally he has more radical beliefs, but I think there's a lot of ambiguity, I think, when it comes to like what people are referring to. Like Sargon of Akkad, for example, also referred to himself as a classical liberal up and until like him advocating for like ethno-states, for example, which which is like a little strange there, you know.
Yeah, not really. That's not what I signed up for, really.
Well, but
that's not when I saw the words classical and liberal put together, I didn't think, oh yeah, white nationalism.
Yeah, but that's the crazy thing to me. That's the thing that interests me so much. It's that. So how were you and all in any way involved in Gamergate? Did you have like a voice during that time?
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
Okay. What do you mean by unfortunately?
It was no, I'm fine talking. It was a very different time. I think those videos, most of them are down, but I think some of them are still up just because I find it so fascinating just to kind of look back at it, and I don't really necessarily feel like what I said was all that crazy. It was just like, it was more the seriousness with which I said it. It was just like, it seemed like I thought at the time that it was just this massively important thing.
Yeah, like
even
the
though, like,
culture war to save free speech.
Yeah, not even necessarily that, but I just thought it was like, I was really into the industry, and I was like looking to, I was like studying game design and stuff, and I really wanted to break into this industry, and I saw this stuff going on. I was like, oh, this is a little weird. I don't like it. I'm passionate about it for some reason. And I just sort of was angry, even though like I don't even think I really was. Like I just sort of did the video that way, and then I was editing it like all calm, and I was like, ah, ha 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 ha, and it just sort of snowballed into this
So
crazy thing that I
you
just didn't even recognize.
you'd say the anger that you felt in that video, or the anger that you put into that video, it was like a character of the time or of the event, but it didn't necessarily represent your actual level of investment in the subject.
Yeah, it was like I got really inspired to like talk about something, and I just sort of I got the energy, and then I did it, and then by the end of it, I was just sort of like, I don't know if I really cared that much,
The thing that I
but
find so interesting about, like, I guess Gamergate as a movement, and what came of it, is that
yeah,
a lot of the people who were initially involved in Gamergate are now neo Nazis. Like a fair number of them. Like Medicare was
yeah,
like one of the biggest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's really, really weird. And I know for a fact that most of the people who gave a shit to begin with were not neo-Nazis. Most of them were, speaking with a broad brush here, were white dudes who have a strong investment in alternative culture like games or comics, who felt like maybe a little bit like threatened, like something weird was happening, like culture-wise, like something is being taken apart or taken away. And they sort of joined up with the group of people who they thought were going to keep that from happening. And then for a lot of these people, like you look 5 years down the line, and now a lot of these people are legitimately like anti-Semite white ethnostaters.
yeah.
Because they got
It's
pulled along.
honestly, it's such a huge jump too, because like even when I made my angriest videos about that subject, I didn't even really think of it as like political as far as like left or right went. I just sort of saw like my main issue of contention, which honestly, like looking back, I'm not even sure if it was even true,
Hmm.
because it's been so long and it's so, that was such a complicated time in general. And there was like so many moving facets that even just recalling specific bits of it is kind of difficult. But my main point of contention was there were people at websites who were just sort of giving favorable coverage to their friends over people who were trying to break into the industry and just make something cool of their own accord. And that was the thing that really frustrated me, was the fact that there was no like recusing of people, like whether they like, oh, there was no mention of like, oh, I'm friends with this person, by the way. And as somebody who just was trying to make games and trying to get, out there, that was like super frustrating to me.
Hmm.
But I sort of like slowly realized that like, oh, that's not really people's contention here.
Yeah, and
That's
and
not really most people's issue.
and at the time, what really frustrated me is I remember back in 2014. Fuck, I must have been in like community college or something. I don't even remember. But back at the time, I mean, I've always been pretty invested in game culture.
Mhm.
And I heard like, hey, there's a new thing coming up, like a ethics in video game journalism, and I think like, holy shit, finally, like fucking Polygon and IGN have been giving favorable reviews to every single fucking Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty game that comes out because they have like favorable relationships with the developers of those games. Like, absolutely,
Yeah.
finally. And then I like lean in and I listen and like, oh wait, what are we focusing on? Like one like depressed chick made like a free game and an indie dev reviewer covered it in a list of 30 games, or like some weird shit like that.
Yeah,
And
it was a lot of weird, like really micro examples that were
microaggressions
like
against the
really,
gaming community.
yeah, basically. There was a lot of mountains out of molehills in that time, but like it took me a long time to even realize that that wasn't people's contention, because it was my main contention and I believed it for so long.
Hmm.
So I just thought like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna talk about what I think, and I think what I think is pretty fairly reasonable. Um, and I wasn't really paying attention to people around me, and I think that's kind of the big thing that I wish I had done a little bit earlier, is just sort of pay attention to the landscape, because I I didn't even like, for the longest time I didn't consider what I did political, and even still to some extent, like I really do feel like if I had made the same videos that I made in 2016 or 2015 or 2014, if I had made those videos in like 2009, I don't think anybody would have thought really anything about them. Like I think a lot of it was sort of dictated by the swath of content that surrounded it,
Yeah.
and that was
It was like a tidal wave back then. Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah. I was a very active. So I think everyone like knows like right off the bat, like a lot of the Gamergate shit was pretty anti-feminist to begin with.
Mhm.
And this would range from some of the anti-feminism would be like, oh well, we don't like it when like women complain about not being able to free bleed or about manspreading or something, like these minor trivial things. And some of it was like pretty legit women hating. But I was
Mhm.
pretty active. I guess, God, it sounds like weird, like cringy to say like I was an active feminist at the time, but it was something that I cared about, you know. So
Right.
I immediately, I guess, sniffed trouble. But what was so, I guess, so strange to me is that it felt like I couldn't have conversations about this with anybody. Because at the time it was this tidal wave through the internet. The entire internet, it felt like, was roped up in this Kotaku and action derivative, like Zoe Quinn, Anita Depression Quest, like
Yeah.
microcosm of drama. And I couldn't have conversations with anyone about it because I felt like nobody who was participating in it saw the things that I was seeing. They had like a different view of the world or like a different interpretation of the reality they were in, where they were like these freedom fighters. Sounds a little bit like I'm condescending to them, but they you know, like we're like standing up. Censorship is coming. We got to take care of these crazy SJWs are going to fuck up our games. And what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they thought
Yeah.
like
No. No. No.
this was
I think it's.
virtuous.
I think it's valid to compare it to like this sense of freedom. That was the thing that immediately kind of irritated me
Hmm.
was that the you're not like when I started leaning into comedy more than because I didn't really want to be didactic. I didn't want to teach people anything. I kind of just wanted to be like, I can make people laugh. I think
Hmm.
probably. And when I saw so many people being like very, very like, oh, we have to save the West. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why do you like? What are you talking about? Like this has so little bearing on anything. It's like an interesting. Like I always thought, like the Gamergate subject, as far as like a an event was interesting to talk about, and it was like an interesting thing that happened,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like important. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like this cultural milestone that we like had to fight for. It was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. Isn't this weird that this is happening? Yeah, weird, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
the weird thing is like a lot of these things you could have like a legit discussion over. Fucking ethics in game journalism is actually a real issue. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like that's a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
power system we could target. The like man spreading thing. I think there are a lot of feminists who focus hyper fixate on minor issues and end up doing like bad optics shit because they are just pushing out what they've learned from their like third year gender studies class and
Yeah,
don't actually give
they
a fuck
make
about making the world better. I think we could have a conversation about that, but yeah, we didn't get to really.
no the pop feminism stuff specifically
Yeah.
was really I always kind of saw it as like this is really like we look stupid. Like I was looking at it from like a liberal perspective, and I thought like everybody. I know that this looks stupid because I'm like I don't I hate the label feminist now because it's so fucked. But like
Hey, listen, I'm real fucking. Even I don't call myself. I just call
but
myself a
like
leftist or a gender abolitionist. The
yeah
term
like
feels like it's so optics fucked now.
yeah, I feel like as far as like the guiding principles of what feminism is, like I align with it.
Hmm.
But then I would see these videos about like man spreading and all this like stupid shit, and it's like, what did this makes us look stupid, and I know it makes us look stupid because because I think it's stupid. And if I think it's stupid, certainly somebody who leans like further right is going to think it's the stupidest shit in the world. So like I always kind of, and maybe this was a mistake in some aspects, but like I kind of tried to make content that was like, hey, you know, I'm liberal too, but you're not crazy. This is stupid. Like this is stupid. If you're liberal and you think this is kind of insane, like you're not wrong. It is stupid and wildly vapid and wildly unimportant.
And that is the main thing I think that I want to talk about with you.
Right.
So there are a couple things I want to bring up. If you don't want to talk about like any of it, or if you
Sure.
want to like reframe what I say, that's totally okay. I'm not like trying to do any gotchas.
That's fine.
I've always been familiar with your content by way of you being a large YouTuber. You know, it's you know you're in the space. But I never like looked through all your videos. I was just in a different
Right.
sphere back at the time. But
Sure.
the other night, like you know, I gotta do my research. I looked through a bunch of your stuff on stream, And your newer stuff, there's some stuff I disagree with, okay, but it's fine. It's good content.
Right.
Yeah, it's very good. But the stuff back from 2016, what I was drawn to, by which I mean what chat spammed at me, was the music videos that you did.
Right.
Right. And first thing, like, you know, when I was watching these, like the triggered one, or the Let's
Little
NBC,
Mermaid one.
right, yeah, like the whole, yeah. And I watched these, and first of all, listen, credit where credit's due. They're bops. They're all bops. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Nicely. I listen. Regardless of content, I respect good editing. Okay. Singing, what have you. But when watching it, apart from thinking it was a bop, I was like looking at this, like eyes wide open. I was thinking, oh my fucking god, this is every person I've argued with for the past 4 years. This is where they came from. Like this is everything I've argued with. This is every liberal who thinks they're taking a stand against the crazy SJWs. This is everyone who tells me that I call people Nazis without proper justification as I'm pointing to somebody wearing a swastika armband. This is like this is every insufferable person that I've talked to, like neatly packaged up in incredibly well produced music parody video. And I think I want to go through these ideas with you, because maybe as like a therapy for me, because some of these arguments I've heard like repeated ad verbatim, and now I know, like, if they didn't come directly from you, like a lot of these people definitely got them from you. So so again, none of this is meant as a gotcha. But with that being said, Dave Rubin. I want to start with Dave Rubin.
Okay.
Right. You've gone on Dave Rubin's show. In one of your music videos, you said that it was essentially, just was, I don't remember the lyric, but the lunacy of the SJW is uniting the right and the left. And it was Milo Yiannopoulos speaking with Dave Rubin. Right. How do you feel? Have your views on Dave Rubin moved forward since that point?
Oh, first, I can't stand Dave Rubin. He is so slimy, and I think I never, I don't want to say that I always knew that he was like slimy, because that'd be kind of dishonest, but I didn't realize the extent. Like I believed him at face value early on when he was like, oh, you know, I'm liberal, but I don't agree with this stuff, because that was the same kind of mentality that I had at the time, and that was kind of what I saw. Like, I saw a little bit of myself in him at that time. And I was like, okay, somebody sees what I see, and they don't seem insane. And then when I moved out to California for the first time, he was like one of the first people who was like, hey, come on my show. And it was just really kind of an interesting sense of just validation. Like, oh, cool, I'm going to be on like a proper interview thing in like a studio. This is neat. I don't know. Like, he's an interesting individual, because I had a falling out with him.
Yeah, I thought humans
ago.
had to be vertebrates for us to survive. I didn't realize that we could survive spineless. It's actually really fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't really care for him for a long time, but then I remember seeing something where he was like, it was something like almost comparable to like, I'm not gay anymore because I'm like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like one of those. I can't remember what the actual thing was though.
Fuck. Was it like, I think he converted to Christianity or something?
Right. That's what it is.
Yeah. He
like,
took the God pill. He took the Jesus pill.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that at that moment, like, I know it was clear to a lot of people before that moment that he was just like a kind of like a grifting, like, bottom feeder kind of guy.
Yeah.
But that was like just beyond undeniable. Like, I was like, come on, dude, that's so insane. That's like the next level is like, I'm not gay anymore.
He's got
I'm
one of these days. Oh, you fucking better believe it. You better fucking believe. He's gonna have like Mike Pence or something on his show, and Mike Pence could be like, yeah, you know, you should try it, like conversion therapy. It's better than they say. And Dave Rubin's gonna be like, okay, yeah, I'll try it sometime. 2 weeks later, he's gonna have $500,000 in his bank account from whatever fucking PAC Pence gets his money from, and he's gonna say, I'm no longer gay. It's gonna be like that. I can't wait. I'm ready for it.
No, yeah, there are definitely some aspects of the musical, specifically maybe art-wise, that I would change.
Art-wise,
specifically, like as far as like the portrait, because like when I was writing the lyrics, I didn't really necessarily, because when I made those music videos, I wrote the lyrics and I made the tracks, and I had a friend of mine draw the images, and they were kind of like, it was completely separate.
Mhm.
So like the interpretation of the lyrics were just the artists. So like I wasn't
I
necessarily
see.
thinking of like Dave
Oh, so
Rubin.
you didn't have any creative control over the actual visuals in that
Well,
in
no,
that.
I did. Like I ultimately ended up posting them. You know, like
Oh,
I
true, true. But I mean, like you weren't directing like scene cut. Like you just looked at it and you accepted the work of the other artist, and you were like, yeah, this is good. Which I mean, it
yeah.
was good. You know, it was pretty. It's like a 3 minute animation. That's a lot of time and money.
Yeah, no, I didn't direct any like I didn't direct any of the art direction. I was just like, hey, you know what? You're a good artist. Do what you do. And at the time, I was like a very small channel, and I was like, I didn't feel comfortable asking, even if I found something in the art that I thought was like, even if it's not even like a political thing that I disagreed with, even just like a small error or something, I didn't feel comfortable being like, hey, could you redo this? I need it to be perfect.
Hmm.
You know, like it just seemed a bit much for what it was. I also didn't think they would explode
Yeah,
in the way that they
millions of
did.
views on each of those, like 3, 4 million, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're. I think art wise, I really wish I would have been a little bit more tight about like what I portrayed visually, because I think if you're looking at like just the words, I
The
really
words on their own are way more defensible than the words paired with the visuals. I will say that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was you know, if I could go back and
Yeah.
maybe
Now,
change
I'm not
that.
meaning to impugn the artist, by the way. None of this is meant like to derive from them. I understand the political place that all of this was coming from. There was one scene in particular, for example, that I was surprised by. I think I forget which
Mhm.
of the videos it was in, but it was something like I dropped somebody, my neighbor dropped
Oh
their
yeah,
keys,
yeah,
right, and the bi-gender girl or whatever, and it was a very unflattering portrayal of what seemed to be a trans woman, which I knew, and I knew that you're not, or you don't have a history of transphobia, so I thought it was a bit of a departure from that. But I can understand, like, if there was a line between the the visuals and the music, that stuff like that might arise.
yeah. I kind of in my mind I had it like one because and I don't mean to say that this is most people
Hmm.
who identify this way, but I have met people who use identity as a way to feel unique and as a way to kind of feel like they're doing something, and like at the end of the day they just actually kind of don't believe it, and they're actually kind of terrible people. I don't
Hmm.
think this is the like even like close to the majority of people who identify with, you know, any kind of pronoun or what have you, but the kind of person that I had in mind was just sort of, you know, this person who was mostly just sort of pretending.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
I
if that
mean,
really that doesn't really that doesn't really like excuse it, I guess, but
yeah, because I mean the argument would be like, even if there are some people who I guess kind of play up an identity element for attention, which I mean, 8 billion humans on Earth, there are some people who do that.
I
Um,
mean, everybody does shit for attention. That's kind of the
Well, yeah,
thing.
yeah, of course.
So like,
And I mean, frankly, this is something cisgender people do all the time.
hmm
Guys who have like a fuck ton of machismo or whatever, who like constantly like pump themselves up. Christ, I mean,
oh yeah,
if you want to look to an extreme example, like those people who put synthol in their muscles, you know, they inject. Yeah,
the,
yeah. Like,
yeah, the
what is
Michelin Men.
that? Yeah, yeah. What is that if not like hyper performative masculinity? That's a it's something I think that a lot of people do, but we get like angry when gender non-conforming people appear to be doing it, you know? Now, I mean, listen, I'm pretty SJW as it comes, but I'll admit, like, I've been to college campuses. There are definitely some people who are experimenting with their look and identity in a way that is you know, maybe a little bit off-putting. But I guess like kind of the prevailing theme, I think, of that time period was those people turning into the face of an authoritarian regime, where they weren't what they are, which is powerless college students like occasionally acting embarrassing on camera. They turned into this like new wave of authoritarian PC dystopian, you know, like
Yeah,
jackbooted thugs who are marching across like the rights of all the rest of the Americans and stuff. And that's, I think that's the stereotype that I'm still fighting against. I think it's like the blue haired Tumblr SJW. That's like the ghost that a lot of people who debate me see whenever they look at me or anyone else on the left.
yeah. It's it. I mean, I always just sort of thought that it was funny. Like the like whenever you see like a like I don't even think it's necessarily all that opinion based. Like when you see like a video of somebody like accosting some guy because he has dreads,
Hmm.
like it's funny to poke fun at it. It's another thing to treat it like a threat. Um, I don't know if I ever portrayed it that way, maybe accidentally. I
Well,
don't recall ever feeling like they were a threat, so it would be shocking to me if I did.
there
Um,
were, I mean, in the music videos, there were lyrics like "arrested for misgendering," like that was just the lyrics
yeah,
too,
yeah,
not the visuals. Yeah.
yeah.
Was
I mean,
that from the
yeah, I
C16
should have.
thing, or would that have been earlier?
I'm sorry, what's up?
Was that from the C16 thing, or would that have been earlier? I think C16 was mid 2017, not
No, no, no. That
2016.
was the way I structured it was like the beginning of that musical was the first two verses were amalgamations of real stories that
Hmm.
happened into kind of like an anthology.
Uh-huh.
And then the final verse was just sort of like a hypothetical absurdist future.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't really
I think that's
communicate that though.
yeah, I think that's just what a lot of people like thought though. I think I worry that's just what a lot of people like thought was happening.
Right.
Right. It's like
No, that was way before. That was way before C16.
yeah, I think it was like
Um,
late 2017 or something like that. It's
yeah.
yeah. It's just the like the worry is I think a lot of this boils down to people taking this stuff to different degrees of seriousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in my community, I mean, anyone watching can attest to this. I make fun of like silly people on the left constantly. But I do so in a context that doesn't allow people to take what I say and then run off with it to like, you know, the death of the West or what have you. But like for the Punch of Nazi video, for example,
Hmm.
the lyrics were like pretty heavily oriented around, like as you said, like the hypothetical future where like the libs are actually the real or the crazy SJWs turn to the real Nazis and then they become the authoritarian regime and what have you.
Hmm.
I think this reflected people's sincere fears a lot more than maybe you intended, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I made that video specifically because I had been dealing with I had been called a Nazi, and people like Shu have been called Nazis
She was
before. Like,
still being called a Nazi.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like I kind of made that video as a response to that and just the feeling that I got like, listen, man, if this was like 2012, I'd be with you like like every day. Like, yeah, punch a Nazi. Yeah. Who would argue for a Nazi's right to not be punched? Like, I don't, we kill them in video games all the time because it's fun to do.
Hmm.
But at the time it was like, if I even remotely endorse that kind of behavior, there's a chance that I could be, you know, I could be the subject of that violence.
You
And I
thought
didn't.
like if I approve this, I'm implicitly like validating the extremist perspectives of people who would also call me a Nazi.
Right. And like it was like a really frustrating time because I had my parents were getting like emails, like I had some people dox me for a little bit. It was a little bit frustrating. And
What was
like
that in response to? Like, was it a
I don't
particular
know.
video or?
It was straight up out of nowhere. I just got a message from my parents and they were like, "Hey," and they showed me like the screenshot of like some emails and stuff, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm getting a little weirded out here." And especially because at that time there was a lot of like punch a Nazi was like super common. It was a super common phrase at the time,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, man, I don't feel comfortable with this because I
If
know
I'm
that
in
there are
this
people
group,
out.
like I don't want to be.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't like I don't have a problem with literally punching an actual Nazi, but like when you have that label thrown to you, it makes you really kind of rethink. It just puts it in a different perspective that I don't think a lot of people really consider.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't really think of it in the sense of like a
Can,
broader political
can I
thing.
give you an example of that happening to me, kind of?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. So when I was a little bit younger, I was a much edgier leftist, okay? I was never
Mhm.
like authoritarian leftist or anything, but I would do like there are videos of me online because I was prominent online at the time, like in Destiny's videos or whatever, where I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna put all landlords up against the wall. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, the guillotines are rolling right the fuck out for you. Like when I would debate people, like I would implicitly threaten them with that kind of stuff. Which I mean, well, you know, which is fun. Like, you know, I was having fun and everything, but the issue was like my essential argument was like if you're a liberal, like you're going to get what's coming to you. But now, or I guess a few months after that, for one, that's just not good optics. You're not going to convince people. Like, people in chat right now are saying that's base. Like, shut up. You're never going to convince people, okay? Hey, proletarian revolution comes from public support, okay? Work on people's feelings, not feeling fucking edgy. Anyway, I got a little bit older, and I got to be more like avowedly libertarian socialist,
Yeah.
very anti-authoritarian, to the extent that I started having schisms arise between me and like MLs, for example, or like tanky types, and then they started calling me liberal while saying the same shit that I used to. So wait a second. Yeah, so like, wait a second. Hold on. I thought we were working together on this, but now they're like using the same basic threats, and now I'm getting thrown into the label that threat was being applied to. So right. So I understand.
And it's just like it's especially uncomfortable when it's like the accusation is Nazi, because it's such a reprehensible, like universally reprehensible thing.
Hey, liberal.
You know what I mean?
Hey,
like,
for us, liberal's real fucking bad too. Okay.
is it close?
Honestly, with the fucking way Bernie or Bust Twitter's acting right now, I'm not sure. I don't know which one's worse to them, but it's Nazi's probably worse. I'd say Nazi's probably worse.
It's a safe bet that Nazis are probably worse.
Probably. Not many games like Return to like Castle Karen, where you like mow down like white wine moms from Minnesota or something. But anyway, yeah. I do understand where you're coming from that. There was one particular thing, and I'm interested in discussing this with you. Again, if anything, like if you want to move past the point, that's totally fine. I think one of the big like blow up moments of like where has this gone? Like, how far has this led? This Gamergate like kind of obfuscation of conservative thought was during JonTron's discussion with Destiny, which I know you're familiar with, because I've seen some media from you on Twitter pertaining to that. Are there any, before I ask about that, do you have any like thoughts on that subject in particular nowadays that have differed from your thoughts back then?
As far as the debate itself, or as far as what specifically?
I guess the debate, not necessarily the
I'm
debate,
fine
but
talking
like,
about it, by the way.
Okay, gotcha. Not necessarily like the content of the debate, but like JonTron himself, or the reaction that occurred, like arising like from that,
Right. I mean, I understood it. I'm good friends with John. He's been really supportive of me, and I'm really close with him. And there's a tweet specifically of me talking about that debate that gets thrown around a lot, and I understand it because it is just it's just blatantly incorrect.
This is, just to clarify, this is the wealthy black people commit more crime than poor white people one, right?
Right. Well, I was sharing a statistic that was brought up in the debate, and it seemed like I had looked it up, and it seemed like I had found something to pertain to the validity of it. And I was like, oh, what is this? Is this real? Like, apparently this is real. Can anybody does anybody have any counter information? Because I feel like the best way to counter information is to get, counter information, and not just kind of fly off of the handle at how like offensive it sounds.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you see data that like contradicts with your worldview, you have to like find out why that is. You can't just like get mad at it.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of shared it with that intention, but it kind of just sort of comes across like I'm just sharing racist statistics.
Okay. No, that's it. That's totally fair.
And there's actually tweets below it that obviously never get
right. Well, I went back. I mean, I found like archive links of the whole thread, so I saw the whole thing. I understand it in its context, but I know that specific issue is one that gets brought up a lot. A consistent pattern that I find, I think, is that different people will have different levels of this. This sounds like how do I phrase it? Like levels of awareness, or levels of culpability for the type of content and the messaging that they produce. And it differs depending on what like sphere that you're in. So because like my entire job is politics, I look at like every decision people engage in, everything they say, especially large public figures, and I think like, what is the political outcome of this, and that? But a lot of people don't think that way because like politics isn't their game, or at least not to the extent that it has to be for me.
Yeah.
Right. So it can be a little difficult to ascertain. When it comes to JonTron specifically, we can. I understand that if you have like a friendly relationship with him, we don't have to impugn his character or anything. But the actual shit that he was saying was like unquestionably white nationalist stuff.
Yeah, it's all insane.
Okay.
4chan garbage.
Yeah, that was the thing that bugged me the most because I've believed some crazy shit in my life, but the issue is where does it come from? Because for JonTron to have found that data chart, he would have had to pull it off of like Poll or some other place because that data was fake. You know the context in that data, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I did at the time after I put it out to everybody, and they helped me find the source of it.
Gotcha.
I'm a little bit rusty on it because I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I know that it was a bullshit statistic.
Yeah, essentially what happened is there was some guy who wanted to prove that point, so he took like data on crime rates and then found separate bits of data on income levels, and he like mashed them together with like really weird methodology. He didn't have a stats background. He just like wanted to like make the chart, and then he faked it by saying it came from the Bureau of Justice Statistics when they keep no such data on the subject. So it was like a completely made up chart, but that kind of stuff would only be circulating in places like Poll or Stormfront, which makes me wonder where JonTron would have gotten it from. He hasn't done or said anything weird since then, to my knowledge. So I guess I'm mostly just hoping that like maybe the public backlash has made JonTron think a little bit about like where he's getting his information from, you know?
No, well, I mean, I think I honestly don't know if public backlash really helps. I think that I'm glad that I was in a friendly relationship with him because I feel like even when you talk to Shu about like how like about the gorilla Leslie Jones comment and how like she reacted when a lot of other people like on the internet just kind of accosted her for it, and she was like kind of defensive, and she's like, fuck you guys, fuck this.
Yeah.
But when a friend of hers kind of told her the same thing, I feel like you're more open to self-reflection when somebody approaches you in a genuine in a genuinely concerning way, as opposed to just like a way to just sort of bash on you.
I absolutely agree with that from personal experience.
Yeah, no, from personal experience too. Like, it doesn't work.
The crowd doesn't really have a choice though, right? Like if you have like a cool, like wholesome, JonTron's a pretty wholesome dude. Like the content he produces, that's the crazy thing to me. If like I learned to like tomorrow that Sargon of Akkad like was a Nazi or so, well, he's already a white ethnicist or whatever. But if I learned he was a Nazi, I'd be like, oh, okay, with some people, like I'm not that surprised. But JonTron always did like pretty wholesome, like fun. It'd be like a video game nerd like came out one day as a Hindu nationalist or something. Like it'd be really fucking weird.
No, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it was a complicated time for me because he had eventually become a friend of mine like a little bit before that. But even the earliest like content that I made was like very inspired by the stuff that he did because I really, really respected it. So it was kind of difficult, but I think people need to really also accept the fact that a lot of people can be misinformed and a lot of people can stumble across bad information and even go like pretty deep into some pretty dark areas. But as long as there's like some level of, as long as there's some connection to like normalcy that they have, as long as they're like surrounded by people who are just connected to the real world, I feel like there's a way to pull.
No, I completely agree. That's how you bring people out, because when you like run into somebody online and they're like a lunatic fucking Nazi or something, which I understand. I do more than most people because of what I do, but there are cool, man. Back in 2012, I did not think that in 8 years we'd be seeing this many Nazis on the internet.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, normally what happens with these people is they're completely detached from the real world. They're completely separated from it. They get all of their news sources, all their friendship, all their social integrate, all of of it from very, very, very specific, highly politically biased online sources, and they have no way out. And then they're just in a different world. You can't even engage with them. That's one of the things that de-radicalizers try to do in real life is
Yeah.
you have like Ku Klux Klanners or like skinheads, and they also only have their communities. So you try to pull them out, like, hey, maybe go to like a fucking bar with like normal people one day, see how that goes. Oh, hey, Shoe's in chat. What's up? But yeah, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there.
No, it's fine. I really do believe that I don't think anybody is evil, really. Like I do believe that people can change, and I do believe that people can believe like really heinous shit and then just come out of it as better people. And I don't necessarily agree. It's kind of why I don't really like this cancel culture thing. I know that that's kind of a thing that simply like being opposed to that method of.
Chat's about to get mad at you for saying that when I've literally done videos on how I don't like cancel culture either. But yeah, continue.
Okay. Yeah, never mind. We don't have to get into it.
No, like, please, no, fuck chat. No, please. Go ahead.
No, but like, I don't know. Like, I just don't think it really helps. As far as like a media backlash is fine if something stupid happens or like whatever. But if you're like, if you know somebody who's personally misinformed and they find themselves in some kind of insane, kerfuffle or whatever the fuck they find themselves in, and you just sort of disassociate with them and just sort of leave them to their own devices, I think that's genuinely far more harmful than just trying to understand why they think the way they do, and also just being an example of somebody who isn't just on like all over their backs, as somebody who can just like communicate with them like a human being.
Well, that's the gamble, though, right? And that's the hardest gamble. You have two choices. You can.
There are definitely certain. Well, there's definitely certain positions that I wouldn't be friends with somebody who like, was like, oh, maybe gay people should be like exploded on sight.
Right. Of course, yeah. There's reasonable limits, yeah.
But there's talk about this pipeline thing, right? About like how like content sifts you down to the alt-right through a pipeline, and it's like, why doesn't that apply to creators as well? Or why doesn't that apply to higher profile people as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're just as shit as everyone watching right now. we just have better recording equipment. I think that's probably the real difference. That is the hardest gamble, and I don't think there's a right answer on this one, because you can take two roads. You can stick with the person, which has the negative impact of publicly leading people to believe you implicitly endorse their behavior, but the positive benefit of maybe being able to change their minds, or you drop them entirely and disavow them, at which point you lose any ability to bring them over, but at the very least you break communities with them. I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think that's a really tough like case by case basis. It's
definitely just like a personal moral question. I find that I have like a stronger moral imperative to just kind of stand by friends as much as I can stomach to. Obviously, like I said earlier, there are lines, but if somebody's just genuinely misinformed, I don't think that's something worth just throwing people away for.
Yeah.
I think.
But here's the question. How do you tell the difference between misinformation and dog whistling? Take, for example, Shoe on Head. Hello, Shoe on Head. Shoe on Head was, I'm not trying to misrepresent her or like drag her or anything, but for reasons that we've discussed in the past that I don't think anyone should impugn her for now, at least not here. Shoe on Head like maintained a friendship with Lauren Southern, like past a point where many people found it like very, very telling. Lauren Southern is, if not a Nazi, about as close as you can get to being a Nazi. The Great Replacement conspiracy theory that she pushed and termed led to the fucking Christchurch shooting, like she was directly cited her theory. So like, but the question is like, what if there is a, like, how do we, I don't know what was going on between Lauren Southern and Shoe. I have no way of knowing, and I'm not going to like second guess, but given Lauren Southern behavior now, it seems more likely to me that she wasn't just misinformed. She had a very specific and very sinister political agenda that she was willing to present as misinformation or as earnest political engagement because it afforded her more charitability from the people around her while she went about like trying to build a white ethno-state. And that's what concerns me. A lot of these people are misled, but a lot of them are malicious.
Yeah, I understand that. And I mean, this is definitely like a specific scenario where it's like, if you're just not personally friends with the person, then you don't really you're just not informed of the ins and outs of like who the person is or like what they really think. And I think, like I said before, like I think a public media outcry for something, for somebody saying something stupid is totally fine. But I do think like if you have some kind of personal relationship with people and you have like a personal understanding of people that maybe the majority of people don't have, and you feel like it's malicious, then yeah, I mean, fucking, there's no real point at that point.
But can you blame the audience for getting upset with JonTron or with Shu for associating with Lauren or any of that stuff? Because like I can feel like I can understand a very like an immense feeling of betrayal, you know? Not just if somebody like comes out and says something like what JonTron said, but also if people like defend JonTron. That was one of the things that bothers me a little bit, you know? I can give you another example with PewDiePie. PewDiePie is so large, none of us can even come close to touching him. So there's not much point in trying to imagine that we'll be able to change his mind one day. That's entirely up to him and God. But right. But when PewDiePie like got himself in trouble the 10th or 11th time or something, there, YouTubers all do like this big show of like, oh well, I still love PewDiePie, Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or whatever, because they all share an audience. I can understand how some audience members would be like really upset by that because it feels like there's no accountability. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
I mean, I understand that, but I also just inherently think if you're an audience member, you're just kind of inherently misinformed anyway, because you don't have a window into these people's lives. And I understand, like, I'm not trying to like walk around it. I do think a public outcry is valid. I do think it's valid for the audience to feel upset. I just don't necessarily think that there's some kind of imperative placed on the people to act in a way that benefits the audience, because people are people and they're going to do what they want, and they should stick by the people that they know personally more than just a bunch of random people on the internet.
What do you mean by what benefits the audience? I'm really curious about.
Well, like I don't like the idea that creators are kind of beholden to the audience. I don't like that they are morally dictated. Like, I don't like the idea that an audience can morally dictate to a content creator who they should and shouldn't speak to. I think it's valid to have complaints or valid to voice those complaints. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that it should play much of a key decision as far as like the content creators are concerned. I feel like they just need to do what's best for them, and what they know about the situation is way, way more valid than what the audience knows inherently, because they're the people in direct communication with the people that are ostensibly being complained about.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense.
Interesting. Do you mind if
I might be having a trouble. I don't know. I might be having trouble.
No. If you're okay, can we examine this a little more?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm really interested with this one. So we can never perfectly understand what individuals are doing in their internal world, and we can never understand like the internal lives of content creators unless we are them or like we're close friends or something. I get that. And it is silly to imagine the audience has some sort of executive authority over the behavior of the people that they watch. But if we're talking just morally, just prescriptively, like what ought people do, I'm generally of the opinion that content creators, especially those who do like political content or political adjacent content, have an incredibly high degree of responsibility over the outcomes of their behavior. So like, for example, I'm happy to be talking to you right now, and I think we're having a great convo, but back in 2016, if I had had the opportunity to talk with you, if my channel could have somehow been large enough back then and we could have talked or something, I probably would have treated you fairly comparably to a lot of the like morons that I argue with on my channel.
Right.
Because, and not necessarily as a reflection of your intelligence, but because at the time I was at least concerned with the harm that could be brought about from the content that you produced. And I think that a lot of harm has been brought about from that old content. When I said I was going to be talking to you, people in chat linked me videos of yours saying, this was the video that sent me down the alt-right pipeline. Right. Nobody can perfectly control the outcomes of their actions. I would never hold people to that standard. But one thing that I worry about is when people say stuff like, well, I don't think like a content creator should be beholden to the audience. What we're implicitly defending is a lack of responsibility over the outcomes of one's actions, which in the cases of some people, as we can see with what happened to a lot of the skeptic community, turned monstrous. A lot of these people who were not beholden to the outcomes of their actions, who were just interested in the ideas, who didn't really care much beyond that, went down a long, long road, and now a lot of them are on D Live talking about how Jews and Jared Kushner are responsible for keeping the wall from going up, or talking about how feminism is going to lead to the death of the West, or how women aren't capable of understanding love the way a man is. That's what I worry about. I know that it
Right.
like sucks, but a hyper awareness of the outcomes of your actions seems like a necessary like prerequisite to avoid making the world worse.
Yeah, I yeah, I can't really disagree with that, I guess. That makes a ton of sense. I do still feel like, just as far as like friendships with other people
Mhm.
go, it's one thing for content. Content makes a ton of sense. Like, responsibility for content is like a whole different thing. Like, that makes complete sense to me. But I just don't know if I'm comfortable sending people that could be, assisted or helped away from like a deeper entrenchment. I don't like the idea of like sending them off into the howling dark. I feel like it's like
No,
I
no,
feel
no.
like
I totally get that, and I don't even know if that's
yeah, yeah.
productive, right? What if we could like settle on a middle ground? Like, is it like what if like I publicly denounce this behavior from X, but I'm of the opinion that stems from a place of ignorance, not malice, and I hope that I can talk with them to change their minds. I feel like if that like template or that basic sentiment was expressed in like in cases like that, it would be much easier to find where people stand while also leaving room for minds to be changed. You know?
I think you're probably right. But there is there is also the nature of just like the spectacle of this whole thing. Like, it
Mhm.
is largely like a like an entertainment thing. It's almost like TMZ kind of, where it's like this person's friends with this person and this person is talking to this person, and I can't help but, even if I understand the severity of like what is really being discussed, I can't help but view it through this lens of kind of just this vapid kind of obsession
No,
with
I get
like
it. Yeah, yeah, because
celebrity.
they don't give a fuck. They just want blood. No, I totally get that. Yeah. This the same shit happens to me now that I talk to Shoe on Head. You know, because
Yeah.
Shoe on Head. I mean, Shoe on. I love you and all, but you're not a leftist or anything. And so there are leftists who like, oh wow, Vosh friends with Shoe. Huh. Guess he really was a liberal. Like they'll do that shit to me, and it has nothing to do with making the world a better place. It's just about like them wanting to feel better than the people whose videos they still jerk off to. You know what I mean? Like I know they're like sweatily watching my videos, but they'll complain about me in the comment section. I get that. I think it's okay to feel a little contemptuous towards the people who are just screaming for blood and drama every time
Yeah.
anything like that happens.
And honestly, I don't know if I've really reached a full conclusion on this myself. It's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'm
Mhm.
still kind of feeling my way through it. Um, because it's a lot more complicated than people really give it credit for. Like, intertwined relationships with people who disagree with you, even just a little bit or even just a lot, is very, very complicated, and it's a very delicate kind of thing to handle. And I know that most people kind of, and I understand why. I know that most people probably just only talk to people that they agree with,
Mhm.
or only talk to people that they believe align with them politically. Um, but I don't know if that's valuable for me, because I grew up like, my parents are like diametrically opposed. Like, my dad's like very, very right, very conservative. He's not like Stormfront, but like
Mhm.
he's like, Fox News kind of shit. And then my mom is like very, very like left, but she's like into crystals and stuff. So I grew up,
Yeah, there's such a beautiful synthesis between those. I swear to God,
yeah,
I feel like everyone knows like an older couple like that, you know? I don't know how the
yeah,
fuck they made it together, but I guess it works.
yeah. No, it's astounding that they're still together. But so like, I grew up kind of like surrounded by people who thought very, very differently.
Mhm.
So I almost can't help but just see people, even if they are like super off the rails, like really far to the right of the Overton window. I can't help but like maybe think like, oh, well, that's manageable, and maybe that's naive. because that's just kind of my upbringing. But I don't know. I feel like this weird sense of not duty necessarily, but like I don't know what the word is.
No,
I
I
can't.
mean, you've always come off to me as a fairly empathetic person, I think, from the content that I've seen of yours. None of the stuff that you've done has ever felt to me like it's come from a place of like genuine like hatred or revulsion for the most part. Yeah, mostly seems to be like either making fun or like, engaging in some level of revelry.
Yeah, it's frustrating though because so much like I said earlier, so much content around it that was built to kind of mimic it or look very similar to it uh, was kind of seething in malice, and to the point where like if somebody comes across a thumbnail of a video that I made, they won't watch it and they'll just like assume it's like every single other chud video that exists.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
Even
mean,
though
yeah,
like
they took it like way farther. Like here's an example, because this is, I think this can be where there's a level of charitability that we have to assign to people based on like how much, like how good faith do we think they act,
yeah,
some people like I think are very, very inherently trustworthy. What's a really good example? I can't think of any political people because because we're all
yeah.
pieces of shit. Okay, but some people are more untrustworthy than others, and I think that you at that
Yeah.
point you have to be a little bit more. So, like for example, Mr. Medica, right?
I'm aware.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, I'm aware of him too. Well, his political predispositions aside, he put some video out on BitChute recently, which was meant to be a video. So here's the prescribed intent. The prescribed intent is this is a video to inform transgender people of the potential risks associated with gender reassignment surgery. I mean, that could be a title of an academic paper. Okay, let's take a look. And then you actually engage with the video. You watch the video, and it is gore porn. It's just vicious mockery of trans people, every like disgusting botched surgery, every horrible fucking like photo, like bad, like everything. And it's designed. Its intent is to make people disgusted with transgender people. But if we talked with him, if I could somehow like snap him here, I'm pretty sure he would defend the prescribed intention of the video. And that's the thing that worries me the most. If we're charitable to past a point, we let people like get away with a lot. But as you've said, like there are reasonable degrees, and also it's nothing any individual can make like a perfect call on,
I also think there's pretty good ways. There are a lot of good tells with people like that. I feel like like I don't think like when you see the way that Dave Rubin acts to this day, like it's pretty clear to me that it's bad faith. Like there's no there's no real amount of there's no benefit of the doubt.
There's
that
a
you can
really
give
good documentary, a 3-part YouTube series on Dave Rubin that uncovers like the extent to which he lies and deliberately misrepresents stuff during interviews. It's really, really fascinating. But yeah, I can understand, like initially I think he kept the grift going a lot better.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he even like I mean I've met him in person a couple times, and he even seemed like he's a chameleon, dude. He really is like he's a chameleon. He's just fucking.
He's a fucking octopus. He can change colors and he has no spine. Okay, he just slithers his way into whatever damp crack he can find. Dude, can you wait? Did you have you seen the shit where he has fucking Ben Shapiro on and he's like, well, would you come to my wedding? And Ben's like, no, I wouldn't.
He just totally rolls over.
He just takes it. Yeah. Well, I hope you'll come to a party sometime, as long as it's not a gay party. Oh man.
You want to hear about an interesting interaction with Dave Rubin?
Yeah, hit me up.
I've talked about this before on like a friend of mine's channel, but it's still like very fascinating. Where he was tweeting a lot. He tweets a lot about people who like call him out, and he kind of like gets really defensive. And I remember tweeting at him and I said, "Hey man, this isn't gonna make people like you. Just ignore these people. Just genuinely kind of friendly advice." I feel like it was like the most generic advice ever. And then he got on like this weird defensive kick where it's like, "Ooh, you didn't think that when we hung out," and it's like, what? You weren't bitching about people while we were hanging out. Like, what are you talking about? And then like I do a PlayStation podcast with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I do a PlayStation podcast with a friend of mine who was also on a show, and Dave texted my podcast co-host and said, "I don't like the way Chris is acting."
What?
Yeah,
seriously?
like he was trying to tattle on me or something. It's like It was the most insane thing. Like when he told me about it, I was like, I can't believe that this
He's
is
got to be
real.
miserable inside, dude. There's no way. He's got to be the most miserable motherfucker in the world
It was the
inside of
most
his heart.
it was the most childish thing I think I've ever witnessed from a grown human being. Insane.
Text your mom. Your son has been extremely rude to me lately on
That's what it felt like.
Twitter.com.
But it's like, what, are you gonna kick me off a show where it's like it's just I'm 50% of the show? What do you think is gonna happen? Like what?
That's really funny though. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad he's generally unhappy. If he ever wants to be happy, he can quit it. Like he's rich already. Like he doesn't need to keep doing this. But
have you read his book?
I've read some excerpts online. Oh man, that's some stream content right there, baby. Those fucking it's time to order up like a hot dish of truth with a side Coke of justice or something. I don't even fucking remember. That was some crazy bad. He even misspelled Crowder's name. It was really funny.
It's very 2014. That whole video or that whole book.
You know, boomers always late to catch up on the hot social trends.
Yeah, actually though.
Yeah. Okay. Dave Rubin's hilarious ineptitude as a human being aside. So do you mind if I probe you on a few more points?
Sure, man.
Okay, cool. I really appreciate it. A lot of people won't talk to me, I think, because I think I have a reputation for being a little bit harsh. I try not to.
I don't know. I think you're harsh on insane people.
Harsh on the right people. That's what I'm talking about.
No, I don't know. You seem. I wanted to come on because I genuinely respect you.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that, man. I seriously do, and thank you for coming on. So to cease with the toast buttering.
Yeah.
Charlottesville. A lot of people have been very imperative speaking to me about how it's necessary for me to talk to you about this. And I do know a little bit about how you it's not the term, not reported on, spoke of Charlottesville back at the time. So I'm interested in talking about it with you. Have your views on that event changed over the past, what would it be now, 3.5 years, 3 years?
I'll be honest, I don't remember what I said. Can you do you have like a quote or something?
Oh, sure. Oh, I don't have a quote in front of me, but I remember the sentiment. Essentially what it felt like is, prior to Charlottesville, it felt like you were kind of making fun of people who were saying there were Nazis on the streets. Like, oh, come on, dudes. Like, it's fine. There's no Nazis or whatever. And then when Charlottesville happened, of course, we had the Punch Richard Spencer thing, which the music video was made of. It seemed like at the time your greater interest was in downplaying the severity of the event, more so than addressing or condemning it. Though that's probably only a very small fraction of your total coverage of it, so I don't want to misrepresent you and say that's like the entirety of what you've done. If you have more, then
right. I mean, I definitely condemn Charlottesville and what happened. I don't know if
I hope so. Jesus,
I don't think I've ever.
No. You've never said like, oh, they were in the right or anything. But
no. Okay, so I think, I think at the time, and I still on some level, I still kind of think this is true. I do think early in maybe 2014 or 2015, when the media started to kind of report a lot about just like swastikas being doodled on like bathroom stalls and shit, I think there's some level of that reporting. Like that reporting, I feel like really kind of awoken a lot of things. And I don't even necessarily think they were worth reporting on initially. Like just like doodling it. Like I've been to high school, man. People like scratch swastikas into desks just when they're bored as shit, just trying to like pass time. So like when I saw like a news report about like swastikas being doodled on like bathroom stalls and shit, and like I remember the one famous tweet of like Sarah Silverman tweeting out like a construction marker, and it was like a swastika. And I was like, all right, come on. But I feel like that coverage made people who maybe like felt allegiances to that cause, I feel like they were like, oh, there are people out there. Like I genuinely think that the media kind of accelerated the growth of neo-Nazis.
Okay, this is actually very interesting to me, if we can hit on this point specifically.
Sure.
So at the moment, I'm sure you'd agree with this, we're seeing a pretty global resurgence of right-wing populism.
Yes.
Yeah, Hungary just literally became a fascist dictatorship. Like what? Like okay, they just decided. Poland is probably going to be the same within the next 5 years. We've got Boris Johnson in the UK. We have the migrant crisis has led to a massive increase in the popularity of far-right nationalist groups in Europe, like the Golden Dawn, and then here in the US, of course, we have Donald Trump, who is not only himself a fascist, but who appoints like super fascists, like Stephen Miller, for example, to positions of prominence, and so on and so forth. Like we're reeling it right now, which is unfortunate. But I feel like there's a split here, or maybe there are two splits. There are people who don't want to acknowledge that this is a thing, who mostly tend to be the people who would benefit from that the most. They tend to be the fascists or the far right populists. And then of the
Downplaying it, yeah.
right, not here, not amongst us. And then of the people who acknowledge that this is a thing, there seem to be people who want to take great action against it, and people who have faith in our institutions to deal with it kind of like on their own. Like we don't need to saturate this with attention. Would you say you're probably in the latter camp, that by over addressing this or giving this too much attention, we're actually like, eulogizing all the white nationalist terrorists, we're actually like bolstering their popularity, we're giving them the attention they're looking for?
Not necessarily now. I think now it's worth reporting on because it is genuinely a huge resurgence. But I really do think like early on, like 2014, 2015, when this stuff was being reported on as just doodles on the side of the road and like just really just non-consequential things, in my opinion, I really do think that kind of led to some feeling of bolstering in that community and in those places where they felt like, oh, they're talking about us, we're getting attention. I really do genuinely believe that played a huge role in accelerating it. I think it's worth reporting on now, of course.
I'm
People
interested.
died, literally.
Yeah. I'm interested on what would you would do in their place. So it's well known, for example, that you don't want to report on the name, or extensively on the name and the life of the shooter. In a school shooting, because that leads to more school shootings. Because a lot of these people, they're desperate, they're edgy, they want to go out in a blaze of glory. They know that they're going to be clogging up the national news lines for days if they do something crazy. But if you don't give them that attention, you take away a lot of the motivation. Recently, there was a Proud Boys march in Portland where they clashed with Antifa, and they pulled back after a confrontation, saying that they had already accomplished their goal because Donald Trump had tweeted about them. They were only interested in getting his attention, the recognition of the president. And stuff like that really makes me wonder, what is the most responsible way for the media to cover stuff like this that makes people aware of it but doesn't actually bolster the movement? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I'm not going to give you like my feeling on the correct answer after. I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, I mean, it really is kind of like a catch-22 because you can't just not report on it, because it's news and it's happening and people need to be informed about it. I would say, is it weird that I think that Twitter just kind of completely ruined?
If you want to tell me that if you want to tell me that Twitter not only led to the modern fascist resurgence but also got Adolf Hitler elected back in the day, then I would be okay with that. I would defend that statement. I think that's acceptable.
I really think it's almost less about the news cycle and the 24-hour like news cycle that we're all just kind of constantly force-fed, and it's a lot about how the discussion is bolstered online on places like Twitter specifically, that really bolster it. Because whether or not a news agency reports on the name of the killer, someone on Twitter will, and then it'll get like retweeted a million times, and you'll see memes about it. There's really no escaping the attention that they will get. So I almost wonder if maybe the best course of action is to just straight up report it and just move on. Maybe don't linger on it, because I think the lingering is kind of also a key aspect of like, I want people to really sit with this. I feel like that's also part of the motivation.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not in the position to make that call, because it's a stressful call to make, and I genuinely, I can only act on a hunch with that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. It's the extent to which how much is far right populism done from the ground up, and how much of it is done from the top down. How much far right populism is bolstered by like these local movements working to get the attention of the president or get the attention of the media, and how much of it is done just by people quietly voting for people like Trump, who will then appoint so on and so forth, to positions of power. I don't really know what the answer to that is. But yeah, I guess the discussions on like appropriate media response to far right nationalism is probably a little bit beyond both of our
Yeah,
fucking
probably.
education and academic levels, because I feel like that's some master's course shit.
Yeah, but I just want to make it clear that like my opinion at the time was essentially like, if don't report on doodles, you know?
Mhm.
Like I like there are meetings that happen. Like people have clan meetings. Like there are rallies, and there were rallies back then, but they were so much smaller, and I couldn't help but notice just a drastic increase in their presence and in their numbers until like immediately after they started really reporting on just stuff that I really just didn't think
You know
was
what
really all
we
that newsworthy.
really need to do? I have the answer. I found it. I have the answer. You know what we actually need to do?
What's the what?
Investigative reporting. Nobody
Oh
does
wow!
investigative reporting anymore.
Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah, well, fuck, I don't even know if it was in my lifetime, but here's the crazy thing, right? Like, you remember Andy Ngo?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I remember.
Right, yeah, no, yeah, okay. I know he's still alive, unfortunately. But Andy Ngo, like, oh, Antifa is so bad, milkshake headache, blah, blah, sippy shake. But and then a video came out of Andy Ngo openly collaborating with a white nationalist group to go
Mhm.
and assault another group of people. Like, he was planning, like, essentially a terrorist attack with far right nationalists. The only reason we know about it is because it was caught on tape by a mole. There was a non-Nazi or non-fascist or whatever who had infiltrated that group and was recording stuff in the hopes that he would one day find something, and he found that.
You see
That
how
shit
important it is?
so fucking important. It ended up being used in a court case against No.
Yeah.
What if by covering these things, rather than like giving a huge amount of attention to every single fucking thing they do in public, instead we actually dedicate resources to infiltrating their groups and uncovering actual illegal shit they do, so when we report on them, it's from inside of a jail cell. I think that would be
Yeah.
so much better. Oh my
yeah,
god.
but like there's investigative reporting is just so dead. Like
Yeah, nobody does
and
it
I think a
anymore.
lot of it is just I honestly feel like there's just a level of I mean this is kind of shifting gears a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think genuinely just the sheer amount the sheer volume of news that we absorb on a daily basis, I feel like it's almost making people stupider because they're inundated with a lot of information. They're inundated with like, okay, here's like the top like 58 stories of the day.
A fellow
And I'm
Rick
just
and
gonna-
Morty viewer, I see.
No, I really do. Was that a Rick and Morty joke?
No, what? No. I'm just teasing because like people are being made dumber by the media. No, I'm teasing.
No,
I agree with your
it's not
take on
even-
this. Yeah.
No, it's not even necessarily that the media is making people dumber. I think that just the volume of what we have to absorb versus the amount of time that we have to delve deeply into each of those subjects is kind of the main thing. If you have like 58 stories to keep up with every single day, chances are you're going to just read the surface level information on everything.
Mhm.
And you're not really going to know much about anything. You're just going to know a lot about a little, and that's going to make you kind of feel intelligent and be a lot more confident in your own ignorance. And
Now-
I feel like I don't even necessarily think that this is like I'm not exempt from this either. I think this is something that affects literally all of us.
Mhm.
Because how can you not feel really informed if you're getting like all this
Non-stop
news?
updates. Yeah. But it's all
Yeah.
24-hour news crap. Like, we're constantly being updated on minute by minute, like or we'll get repeats of the same story because multiple outlets are covering it. So we feel highly
Yeah.
informed. I know people, and I know this because I used to be this, people who are in like Chapo Trap House, like leftist subreddits or whatever, where they're like every new post is a news article, every new post is some new piece of information. But these people actually don't know fucking anything because because all they do is spend time in the comment section circle jerking with people over like the breadth of information that they have.
Yeah.
It's actually really detrimental. Whereas back in the day, and I'm not like mourning the fucking 1950s or whatever, but back in the
Right.
day when you got news via a newspaper, you got that story. You got it. It's in text. You read it. That's the story of the day, or whatever, however many stories there are in there. It had other problems, of course, but if nothing else, like it didn't lend itself to that
Yeah.
problem, the over solution of information.
Yeah, I do feel like generally speaking, like even as far back as like maybe even just like in the 90s, I feel like when there were just fewer stories, I feel like there were more people who were a little bit more informed. The potential of being informed is like way higher now, but I still don't think it's actually met that potential. I think we all just sort of focus on very, very surface level details of even the most complicated issues and then feel smart about it. It's kind of like people who are like, hey, you know what? Manspreading is a huge issue, but also I don't know what the fuck redlining and gerrymandering is.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, exactly, yeah. We're all like jacks of all trades or whatever, and we just follow whatever the news cycle covers. But like the tweets about manspreading would get tens of thousands of likes, but the tweets about like redlining, that just dies, and whatever, whatever. Like an amateur journalist tries to like publish a story about Chicago's ongoing problems, it's really, really frustrating. Maybe I don't know. There's like we need like better news curtailing. Whatever the case is. With all that being said, do you agree, a bit of a topic shift here, do you agree with the FBI adding white nationalist organizations to their list of domestic terror groups?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason
Okay, cool.
why that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they're the only thing the FBI can do I'll agree with.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
I said probably the only thing the FBI can do that I'll agree with.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, man, people are literally dead. Like
I'm just curious. I didn't expect you to say
I
no,
don't
but...
think it's a bad classification.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the majority of terrorist attacks have been from them over the past, over the past like 10 years. So might as well, unless if you go back 20 years, 9/11 ends up like skewing everything. But you know what?
Well, yeah.
You know what? Fuck it. Fucking Islamic radicals are also far right conservatives. Okay, so whatever.
Well, I mean, they are. They keep their women in fucking.
Yeah, they're just. You'd think they'd get along. You'd think white nationalists and Islamic extremists would get along more. They believe basically the same shit. They just want to wear different hats. It's crazy. I don't know what's. They could be such good friends.
It's such a vast array of hats. That's really the main. That's really the main reason why they hate each other.
The hat. I mean, it's always been the hats. Like as far back as you go, it's always been the hats. Do you? Okay. So, all right. Okay. I people were linking me the shit while talking to you, and I have a very strict like no fucking ambush policy because that shit's cringy as fuck.
What is it?
There are a few tweets you typed out in 2017 that I would bet any amount of money that you now currently disagree with, at least disagree with the sentiment.
Okay, let me hear him.
Yeah. But I have to keep them happy. Steve King's baby premise is dumb, but I do find it odd that multiculturalism is only being championed in white majority nations. Like, everyone's fine with Asia, Africa, India being majority native, but it's this weird problem in America and Europe for some reason. I imagine that's probably something you'd... Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was stupid. That was like really just uninformed about the greater political climate that was happening. Because I really wasn't... I think I've said this before, like even back then, I still really didn't see myself as political.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how now looking back, but like at the time I really did think it was just like, I'm just entertaining.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, politics is just electoral politics. If you're not getting involved in the actual election of candidates, everything else is fair game. It's just cultural war.
Yeah, well, I mean, also just making fun of just kind of generally like cringy stuff, like stuff that I think the majority of people would look at and say like, oh, that's kind of cringe.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But no, I'm trying to even remember what the thought process was.
No, I mean I get it because if you're generally unaware of the context behind the discussion, like it makes perfect sense because people really only do talk about. No fucking white college kid is going to start talking about the need for multiculturalism in China, which I guess would technically be multiracialism because China is actually incredibly fucking diverse. But they're not. But of course the reason is because we're here in America. If I was over there in India, if China was a fucking Chinese person, I'd talk about it there, but I can understand how that sentiment could arise.
Yeah, I think at the time I just thought it was weird that people cared at all about like kind of because there was this weird like I remember I had seen some tweets from people who were like, oh yeah, we're gonna push the whites out or something, and I was like, that's a little weird.
I go, well, I disavow that.
Well, it's just like that's kind of the thought process that I was in, where I was like, it's kind of weird for a person to care that much about whether or not, like I don't know, like just the idea of supplanting another culture or race is just very strange to me. Even just as a simple of as like even as somebody who's opposed to it or for it, like I don't understand it. Like I don't understand having so much importance like baked into your own race to the point where you're willing to just sort of fight for something that you didn't even have a choice over.
I mean, they're all sad
I mean?
people. Yeah, of course. They're all sad people. Like, people do this shit with sports teams. If you don't feel very accomplished individually, you'll try to throw yourself behind a group identity. This is just the most destructive group identity you could possibly throw yourself behind, because there's so much historical context behind ethnic exclusionism. But
Exactly.
It's like the worst thing you can. But like, no, I completely get it.
But yeah, no, that was a dumb tweet.
Well, no, again,
stupid.
like I said, I mean, the chat just threw it at me. Like, I don't fucking give a fuck. If you could find, Jesus Christ, if I was online, like actively online back in those days, like, holy fuck, find my tweets, you know? Whatever the
Is there
case.
another one?
Oh, no. They're equally inconsequential. Like, I know what you're going to say to all of them, so it's not a big deal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so wait, we have that. Fuck, wait, the next thing I was going to specifically ask about. Okay, we were talking about. Oh yeah. I'm interested in this now. So to move a little bit more to the present, I think, because again, like, Jesus Christ, find my political views back then. You know, we'll have a contest over who said the most dumb shit. Nowadays, do you consider yourself to be an SJW in the way you would have described an SJW back in 2016?
I don't think so. I think that word obviously has lost any semblance of meaning. Like, but at the time, and even at the time that like it was like a really popular phrase, I think it didn't really have like a general consensus. But my general consensus for that definition was always just sort of, you know, somebody who would somebody who cares a lot about comparatively. Like somebody who would care about mansplaining or manspreading, but not, you know, actual like gerrymandering and redlining and you know, actual political things, like genuinely like important things, who would then claim that you're not on the same political aisle as them just because you think it's a dumb thing to criticize.
Yeah. I mean, people. Does that make sense? Yeah, some people call me an SJW. Some people call me like a crazy reactionary. So there's a lot of variety there.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
So a lot of people, an SJW is a person who is posting cringe, and to a lot of people, an SJW is somebody who is a progressive. But to them, they would say that it's somebody who is posting cringe, because to them, progressivism is posting cringe.
No, I think there are right-wing SJWs. I think that exists. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily make sense because the acronym doesn't really fit, but I think
their social justice, right? For them, social justice, like women shut up, like whites in the country, like
right, exactly. Yeah. Like it exists. It's like I remember I saw a video a long time ago. It was like most SJW moments in Avengers Infinity War or whatever, and I was like, and it was just this moment where the girls were fighting, and there was this one, where he says like Vision becoming a human. Or Vision, the AI becoming Vision is like transitioning.
What? I mean, that's not how I fucking read it, but okay.
No, of course, but that's the kind of thing. It's like you're reading very, 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 very deep political.
Yeah, this would be like some blue-haired bitch be like, "Hey, top 10 most problematic moments from Infinity War."
No, exactly.
Number 10, when Captain America bumped shoulders with fucking Miss Marvel as he walked in front of her in the elevator. Like that. That's the level. Like that's what we're doing now.
It really is the same shit. Like I don't understand how people don't see that, because it's bafflingly obvious to me. Like if you're saying like, oh, top 10 SJW moments in Infinity War, and one of your examples is literally. Vision is transitioning because he's becoming a real person.
Anything like, becoming another thing is actually like, Jesus fuck, go back and tell the Greeks that.
Is RoboCop trans? Like what? Like how far is fusion in Dragon Ball Z gay sex?
Hey,
like
keep your fucking mouth off my AO3 fanfics, okay?
It's just really what it really comes down to is you're taking something that's really simple and really just sort of like, hey, here's media that's meant to be fun and meant to be engaging and meant to entertain you, and you're prescribing political positions onto it that are very clearly absurd or very clearly just not intrinsic to the work. You could definitely like read politically into a lot of video games and movies, and that's totally fair to do. Like I don't understand how you could play a game like BioShock and not understand that that's a very political game.
Yeah, I hate politics in my video games. Time for me to go back to Mass Effect, BioShock, and Call of Duty, my favorite series.
In fairness, I know what people are talking about when they say.
Yeah, but what they're saying is, I don't like the women and the gays. That's what they're saying. I just wish people would be honest with it, dude. That's what I would like the most. If people would just be honest, because No Bullshit does this stuff all the time, like the SJW politics.
Believe me,
but then,
I know.
yeah, and then you look at it and it'll be like there's a woman soldier, and at one point somebody gets called they them, and there's a gay couple like that. That's what they mean. But all the other stuff, all the war.
He said to. This is the guy that I was talking about. He said also that because Peter Dinklage was a giant midget, it was like, the words he used were, this is exactly something that a kind of pro-diversity leftist would argue for. And it's like he's just a little person in a movie, dude.
I just assume they did it because I don't know, he had like dwarf-like proportions to begin with. I don't know.
Look, man, if you're complaining about like too many women in a movie, I want you to sit there and really examine how that's different from somebody being like, there's too many men in superhero movies.
Yeah, and I just want them to be honest with it. That's all if I booted up a video and they're like, my issue with Battlefield 1 or whatever Battlefield 5, the one with the woman, is that there's a woman on the cover. I don't like women. I like men. I don't like women. Get the woman off. Like, that'd be great. Let's talk about that. I would love to have that subject. But instead they're like, well, it's not really realistic. Yeah, I don't have an issue with women. It's just I don't have an issue with it
personally, but I can't help but notice.
Yeah. So like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here, like, it's unrealistic for the woman to be on the cover, but here's a fucking automatic M1 Garand, and here's a World War II game where we're using weapons that were prototyped for like use by the German army in 1945 and never saw any use outside of a lab. Yeah. It's
also not Battlefield is also not a simulator. Like, it's not a sim.
Yeah, it's not a history
sim.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, if it was like, if you were saying something like, I remember there was this one game on the iOS store that, like, this is a long time ago, they got pulled because it had Confederate flags, but it was also like it was like supposed to be like pitting armies against each other, and it was like set in colonial America. And I thought that was kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a bit ridiculous. But like, the complaints are never that valid with those videos. It's always just like,
if the goal really is historical. So for example, if I was watching, have you ever watched Band of Brothers?
I actually started recently.
Oh, well, I mean, as you know, it's a very realistic World War II series, you know? It's really getting in there. If I was watching Band of Brothers, and then in episode 6, they came across, like, the Bikini Squad, like a bunch of, like, hot French bimbos with big fat titties that were all, like, chilling in a natural sauna before they come out and don, like, armored lingerie and fight with them while doing, like, kung fu flips and stuff, I think I can make a reasonable argument that we should probably get these women the fuck out of here, you know?
This is awesome, but also it doesn't belong here.
Yeah, exactly. But fucking Battlefield, where you can do loop-de-loops in a plane? Fucking, like, Jesus Christ. Fucking Gears of War? We're going to complain about women in Gears of War? I don't know. Yeah.
Were people complaining about women in Gears of War?
Yeah, in the, oh, wait, was it Gears of War or was the new Wolfenstein game? I forget which one. I think both of them have female.
The new Wolfenstein game.
Okay, yeah.
You're playing as the two twins.
Two daughters. Yeah. I guess both of them had women in it. Damn, fucking crazy. Yeah. Women are like 20% of game pro tags now. That's wild.
It's like they've always been around.
Yeah. So I guess like that's always been the divide, right? Like when somebody says SJW, because as I said earlier, like the SJW is like the totem around which all political discourse online takes place. Like everything.
Yes.
Literal fucking white nationalists will argue against SJWs. It's insane. If you watch like a Vincent James video, they're like, these crazy progressive globalist SJWs want to import the third world. Like we're still using this language when we're talking about the most dire civilizational stakes, and the term came from like a fucking like Tumblr blogs and stuff. It's like so weird. It's out of place. But as long as people can maintain their general derision of cringy behavior, while being progressive, like, I think that's really cool. In fact, I think that's super cool. I'm very, very, very much in favor of that. And I mean, you're progressive, I imagine, like trans rights, obviously, healthcare, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I would consider I would have considered myself progressive back then if just a little bit ignorant on the terminology that I used very often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I can't think of a single progressive policy that I necessarily feel all that at odds with. If Bernie was in office, I can't think of a single thing that I would have a problem with.
Do you know the exact number of genders?
Fuck. I can't say that I do.
I've never actually met a living human being that's unironically said that there were any number of genders. I've never seen it once. Like
a specific number, like 676.
Yeah, like a progressive, I mean. Like, I've heard plenty of people say there are 2 genders. I've never heard anyone say, like, there are actually 3 or there are 7, or I've never heard that. I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard it in real life either. And part of it, and honestly, like, a lot of that makes me wonder, like, how, like, it almost feels like Twitter and, like, the internet is, like, a different thing from the real world, like, almost entirely. Like, even just the people who are on there are different people on there, and it feels like it's just a fucking portal to just like an alternate reality. It's almost like a future. It's almost like you're looking at the future when you go into Twitter, which is horrific.
I have a deeply held belief, and that is this. It's that most of the cringy, poor optics fucking SJW types out there, like all the man-spreading types or whatever, I think that fundamentally many of these people are very good people and very well-intentioned, and a lot of them just kind of live in their own little bubbles and they don't know how to appeal to other people. And I hope, and that's always been my goal on the left, like always, at the end of the day, to like give people who are progressive or left-leaning arguments that actually work, to not have them focus on stupid, inane bullshit, to have them like project their message with intentionality, with purpose, with good odds. So I mean, I share that concern. I guess it's something that really bugs me.
I actually wanted to ask you something in regards to that, because I found myself, I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and I found myself kind of caught in a discussion that I was having. And I was talking about like Bernie's healthcare plan and Medicare for all in general, and they brought up the fact that all of the countries that Bernie talks about modeling his healthcare system after doesn't actually abolish private insurance. And I found myself just completely frozen, and I was just like, I don't know what to say to that.
No, it's true. It's something that some Bernie fans do that really bothers me. They'll say like Bernie would be considered like centrist in Europe. No, he wouldn't. He's actually incredibly left-leaning in every country on earth. Yeah, no. As to my knowledge, Bernie Sanders' healthcare plan would have been the most radical healthcare plan on earth. Yeah. Which, I mean, cool. I'm not opposed to it.
I figured you would know whether or not that was true.
Yeah.
I remember he brought it up to me, and I was like, well, fuck. Okay. Yeah.
Now, to be specific, there were like other like, so for example, like technically, like the North Korean health care plan, like on paper, is probably more progressive, but that's on paper. Guys, the NHS is not more. Guys, the NHS has been gutted and privatized. Just because the hospitals are owned by the government doesn't mean that the healthcare system is more available to the public. I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, I'm not talking with him. I'm talking to you. Yeah. But I'm saying like there are governments out there that have like ostensibly on paper better systems. Cuba might have a better system than what Bernie was proposing. Whatever the case is, for what we would consider to be the West, it would be by far like the most radical. The argument that I have for that one, by the way, is that by decommodifying healthcare entirely, the benefit you get is that wealthy people don't have anywhere else to turn, which means that they can't mobilize capital and public support against it. It's the same reason why you would want to get rid of private schools. It may suck initially, but if you do, wealthy people have to invest in public schooling as well, because otherwise their kids don't get a good education either. So yeah, that'd be like my argument for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think any kind of change that is worth probably pursuing is going to be pretty radical, because the system that we have now is pretty horrific. It's hilarious. Every time I have so many friends from like I have so many friends that like from like different countries, and they all just laugh. like consistently at just how bad our fucking system is.
I only had to
embarrassing.
get my own insurance plan just recently because I only just turned 26 a few months ago, and the
Oh yeah, me too.
hey
Hey,
hey
look at that. Wait,
uh
what's what month?
February for me,
Ah,
Valentine's Day actually.
December.
Nice. Okay, so
I'm a late
you'd
one.
be older than me
Yeah,
by
a
just a
little bit.
smidge. Okay, yeah, 3 months
Just a
older than
smidge,
me.
just a hair. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm honestly like really bummed about the way this election has been going.
Yeah,
Uh, I have like zero motivation.
I get you. Listen, I'm a Bernie boy myself, but I'm excited about the future. I think in a lot of ways. I think that if we can get Biden in, it's going to be the first time in a long time we have an energized left, which might give us the opportunity to bully the DNC from the left. We can't bully Trump, for example. Like Trump doesn't give a
Right, right.
fuck what progressives give a shit about. We haven't affected his presidency one iota in 4 years. But with Biden, he's already made concessions. He let Bernie keep delegates, which was untraditional. I'm really hoping that we'll have an opportunity to like really push people over. This is what I've been saying, and I'm not trying to proselytize or anything, but
Hmm.
you know how Bernie Sanders has single-handedly brought more people over to the left than probably any other force, factor, or person in the past century?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he came after Obama. He didn't come after Trump. He came after Obama. It was people's dissatisfaction with the Democratic establishment that led to the rise of left populism, not their dissatisfaction with the Republican Party. If we can get Biden in office, people are going to look at him and go, damn, really? That didn't solve the problems the way I thought it would, and they have to look towards another solution. That's my
That's
hope.
that's true, but Obama also was followed up by a Republican president. So like, there's the kind of, if you have Biden as the main guy, there's I mean, honestly, like he's an incumbent,
Hmm.
so it's going to be difficult to beat him regardless. Even honestly, like even with this insane pandemic happening, I still think it's like kind of like a 50-50 shot, which is insane.
Yeah. I'm not sure
But
yet. Hillary did win the popular vote back in 2016 though. So like
I mean, she did, but
not the
kind of
win. Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. It's like I feel like Biden appeals to the same people that Hillary appealed to, and I feel like he's going to falter in the same exact way. I feel like he's going to win the popular vote, but still fall short of the electoral college. And I feel like it's going to be almost a mirror image of what happened before. Whereas like my argument for Bernie, and I know that you support Bernie, obviously, but like my
Yeah, I'm a
argument was,
pretty big fan of Bernie.
but you know, my argument before was like, look, man, this is a completely different map that he has. Like he appeals to so many different people that these other people don't appeal to, and that opens up the electoral map a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it really bugs me.
Can I
that I'm
try to
just
give
gonna
you
have to-
can I try to give you the white pill, the hope pill?
Okay, give me the hope pill.
I come at this from a different perspective than you because I'm a full-on leftist. You're probably
Mhm.
like a social democrat aligned, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Well, I want class like mobilization and the abolishment of privately owned capital. So like that. But I mean, ultimately, like we're leading in the same direction, I think. But what the way I like to think of it, I think, is right now the Democratic Party is unified behind getting rid of Trump. The primary voting participation is up like 70%. A ton of people said they liked Bernie's policies but voted Biden anyway because they are that obsessed with electability. What I'm hoping will happen is that Hillary Clinton was a uniquely terrible candidate. People hate Hillary Clinton. And when they came out with like all the emails, fucking Benghazi, and when the what was it, Robert Stone? No, who was the FBI investigation that they announced like right during the fucking election, like right when it was about to be decided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like she got hamstrung hard, and she was Comey, not Roger Stone. Sorry, they all blur together in my head.
They're the same person.
But yeah, like she was hamstrung hard, and she was already a horrible fucking candidate. Biden doesn't have the same like unique fucking hatred across the board directed at him, and primary participation is up. What I'm really hoping will
Right.
happen is that Trump's incompetence is so resoundingly fucking abhorrent to Democratic voters, everyone just goes out and votes for Biden because they despise Trump, and then we get to spend 4 years bullying Biden into accepting left concessions, which he's already accepted like 8 of them. That's my hope. I want to bully Biden. Okay, I'm tired of Trump. He's boring.
That's fair. It is fun to believe Biden. I do wonder though, like we haven't come across this like a maelstrom of like nonsense like we had with Hillary yet, but with this this allegation thing happening, and with the obvious fact that Biden is just his brain is melting. I wonder how long the good image can last, given all of this, given
Just
all
keep
of the
him.
new.
I don't care if he dies on fucking. I don't care if he dies on fucking February 10th. Okay, we just need to get him in.
But then who's his VP? What if he chooses Hillary as his VP?
Hey, then I'm gonna bully the. Then we're doubling up. Okay, we're bullying
Dude, that's
her.
so fucked. Can you imagine, like, oh, I'm gonna go in as Biden's VP, and then he's gonna die, and then I'm gonna win the presidency that I so desperately deserve.
I mean, hey, wouldn't be the first time Hillary Clinton killed people to get into power. No, no, I mean,
Yeah, be careful, man.
Listen, like the whole situation is fucked. I mean, I hate Hillary, I hate Biden, I hate the Democratic Party, I hate the people of this fucking blighted country. All I care about is spreading class consciousness and trying to get people to understand that we need to move past capitalism to fix the world. So even if I have to contend with some awful bullshit in the way, I'll do it. I don't care. Honestly, my main problem is I can't even criticize Trump, dude. When I boot up when I'm on stream and I roll up and I find a fucking Trump address or something, how do I even make fun of that? Like, it's just like it's like what? Like, not only is he the most infantile, like fucking moron, the most giant cretin to have ever graced the office, in my humble opinion, but he's not on my side. So I can't even say anything.
It's hard to criticize people when they're just not on the same foundation as you. That's what I found out kind of early on. Like after Trump won, I was actually kind of excited because I was like, okay, now I get to poke fun at Trump. This is gonna be fun. And then I realized that I just didn't know how to argue in the same. I didn't know how to make the same points from the same viewpoints, because that's where I felt at home, was like criticizing people who I thought agreed with me for the most part, but could also see the nonsense.
Yeah, because then you could move them over. Yeah,
right. Because I understood the lens. But with Trump and Trump supporters, I don't know if I really understand the lens. And even beyond that, it's so hard to make fun of because it's already intrinsically funny. And then even beyond that, you can't go a day without the most generic criticisms boiling to the top, like orange hair, small hands, haha, loud, obnoxious.
There's like nothing. There's nothing else to. It's like having like a teacher or something, and you're like the mean kid in class. You want to make fun of the teacher, you know. And it's like the difference between getting like a dawdling old woman who like doesn't understand modern slang and a fucking orangutan. Like, even if the orangutan is doing more stuff that is funny and can be made fun of, it doesn't mean anything because it's a fucking orangutan. All the joy is taken out of it. I don't know if Trump cares. Like Trump could like walk on stage and like brag that he like raped his daughter last night, then walk off. And if I make fun of him for that, does he even care? Like, he just did it. You know what I mean?
Not even just that. It's that in addition to the fact that it's just so oversaturated with garbage criticism because people try to get it out real quick. Like I hate the late night Jimmies, like the late night people who are just out there just fucking doing the most mundane, boring criticisms that you could possibly levy. And then by the time I've even formulated a decent criticism, all the wind is taken out of it, and I don't even know if it's good anymore because I've heard so much nonsense for so long, and I really feel like an idiot because I was like excited, and I actually voiced like that I was excited, to like make fun of him, and then I just couldn't at all find a good way to do it, and I was just like,
it's nothing.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the people who do it, like, it's not even just people who make fun of him, but the people who like adore him too. Every time you go to a Trump tweet, it's filled with the same fucking people. It's filled with people who are like guzzling his cum.
MAGA Twitter. MAGA Twitter is the only thing on earth that legitimately increased my suicide risk, dude. Holy fuck. All these fucking 40 IQ troglodytes retweeting one another, and they have like 5 tweets that they just recycle. It's insane.
It's the same shit. It's like our great president, or just like completely sucking him off. And then you have the other group of people who respond to every single one of his tweets immediately as they post, just making fun of him and criticizing him for like the dumbest shit.
I want Trump gone just so MAGA Twitter goes. That's it. I just want them disempowered. That's my only political motivation. Oh God. Well, okay. Yeah. Oh, holy shit. It's been 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, that's
shit.
Probably a decent time block for a convo. Wait. Right. Before that though, really quickly, I disagree with your South Park take.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was the
What's
original thing that I talked to you about, wasn't it? Like
yeah, yeah.
6 months ago or something like that.
It was a minute ago. What is your contention?
My main issue, I really don't like South Park, even though it's made me
Okay.
laugh like a lot when I
Okay.
watch it, because I feel like I guess you've probably heard this criticism, but I feel like it encourages political apathy because every time it talks about an issue, because that's the format of every show, it'll be like two issues. It's dialectical, you know. You have like this, but then the other side will be just as crazy. But the issue is like it touches on real social issues from time to time. If we had an issue where like here's this side and they're like a bunch of racists, but here's the other side and they're Black Lives Matter, but then we make them both look equally silly, and then Cartman does like a speech and Kyle talks about how the lesson we learned today was love Trump's hate, and then they all went back to their homes to play video games. I feel like it encourages a very specific type of political apathy that discourages like engagement or side taking. You know what I mean?
I guess, but do you think it's really converting people, or like, because I don't really think I don't know if it really influences people in that way. I feel like the people who are politically apathetic in the first place are simply drawn to it because it's politically apathetic. I don't necessarily think that it's taking people who really care deeply about issues and or even like care a little bit about issues and driving them to a school of thought that completely negates those beliefs or those standings.
I don't have any like data on hand.
I mean, we're all just yeah. This is all
Right,
completely
yeah,
like a
yeah.
nebulous conversation.
There's
but-
like a Wikipedia article for the term like South Park libertarian. I can't say like definitively like this is the outcome it has versus this. The only thing I can say with a great deal of confidence is that I feel there is a great risk from the content they produce to encourage that way of thinking in the people who are watching it. It bugs me because like the worst type of people on the internet are the type of people who think it's like extra cool to not care because you can't talk about them with fucking anything. It's so
Right.
infuriating to have conversations with them because I don't know what the fuck they believe in. I don't know what they care about. It seems like nothing, you know.
It is kind of, I understand that. It is kind of a difficult thing. Like I know personally, like even for a long while, like when I was doing YouTube, I've been doing it since like Jesus Christ 2008. But like
You've been around for a while, my dude.
yeah, it's baffling. But for a long time I was just focusing on entertaining, and to the point where I was like, okay, I don't even know what I think anymore.
Mhm.
Like I don't even know necessarily what I believe, because the thing that's always my go-to if I'm asked my opinion on something, I'll typically just relay whatever the funniest thing that I could think of is. It's almost like the job circumvented like my actual beliefs for a little bit. It was like a really weird period
No,
of
I
my
no,
life. It was like really fucking weird.
I completely understand. I feel like being politically engaged is a skill that weans off if you prioritize other things. If you get if you're too in with a community, like you care more about the affirmation of that community than you do whatever consistent set of political principles you had before, it can be really, really difficult to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah, I definitely knew more about politics. I feel like in like 2013, or like before everything, before I started really focusing on just making things.
2016 just
like,
made everyone stupider. Everyone's brain got smaller.
Wait, what made everyone stupid?
2016, like 2015, 2016, that period.
Oh,
just
yeah.
like the world the collective IQ of the English speaking world just clunked down like 10 points.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see whether or not that continues. It probably will.
We can only hope that it doesn't. My main hope, I just think, is that it's very clear that the system doesn't work. Whatever the system is to you, like I think you would probably agree with me that it's not working the way that it should.
No.
And I think a lot of people put a lot of faith in Obama, that he was going to be like the neutral arbiter, like the good sense liberal to sort things out. And he wasn't. He was just another president. He was a great speaker, you know.
Yeah, super charismatic dude.
Yeah. But then like more drone strikes, barely got anything through the Senate.
It's like, wow, what a charismatic drone that was. It's just, it was a bit sad.
I just hope the left doesn't go to sleep again. The left was a little bit awake during the Bush years because of the Iraq War, and now with the Obama administration, like they just didn't do anything. The left was not present back then.
They were really complacent. I feel like they just kind of expected, hey, there's somebody in the White House who vaguely agrees with me. maybe that's good enough. Maybe I don't have to do anything.
And
Yeah.
yeah. Hope we're awake now. Hope that keeps to be the case, because we got a lot of work to do, I think.
Yeah.
Chris, I really appreciate you coming on to speak with me.
No worries, man. I hope I did okay. I don't usually do like live things with other people. So this is kind of like new-ish.
And I don't normally have non-debate conversations. I've had a few. I don't generally like them that much because I'm not very good at speaking amicably. I like taking down points, I guess.
Yeah,
But you're a fun dude to talk to. I really appreciate you
it.
coming on. I know that the one unfortunate thing that I know for a fact is going to take place is people are going to rail me for not having gone harder on you because there was this tweet or another that I didn't bring to your attention.
All right, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry,
well, no. I mean, that's the fuck them. That's their fault. What I care about, like at the end of the day, are people good? Do people care? What direction are we heading in? Do we share like the same vector? You know, I think we do, and I sincerely hope, maybe abolishing capitalism aside, and I sincerely hope that maybe we can talk again in the future someday.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I'm always down as long as. Well, it's not like we have any plans.
No, I'm not going to. Hey, I've got lots of time.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Have a wonderful day, comrade.
You too, man.